The world's most popular QPR podcast, that's us, will be holding its traditional end-of-season party in front of a live audience on May the 5th at the Good Ship, Kilburn. The first two names confirmed are fans' favourite Lee Cook and QPR CEO Lee Hughes, meaning we can amuse ourselves by calling the evening Cook Who's Talking. Please join us. Tickets are a tenner and can be purchased via qprpod.co.uk.
QPR, QPR, Brisbane Rangers are on the up and up. QPR, QPR, now we're heading for European Cup.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Open All Hours, the QPR podcast, brought to you by fans, but we're always open to ideas from other people of where we're doing things right, wrong or indifferent. Please give us your feedback, and you can do that by going on Twitter and going to @QPRPod. Facebook, you can find us at New QPR Podcast, and you can also listen to us on IndieR's, iTunes, and various other things like Podbean and things like that. And please give us your feedback because we welcome it. If you can last longer than 3 minutes, that's always a bonus. We're also doing a live podcast coming to you from the Good Ship Kilburn on May the 5th. We've got Lee Cook lined up, and Lee Hughes has agreed to join us to take questions and talk about the future of QPR and where we're going, which is most welcome, and a chance for fans to actually interview him and have an open and honest, really. And we're also going to have a few other people coming along as well as a surprise. And it certainly will be a surprise because we haven't booked them yet. We've also doing a Istanbul's T-shirt with the Art of Football, a fiver going directly to his family to help with Stan's treatment. So please look up Art of Football on Twitter and go through the QP. You can buy it by qprpod.co.uk. It's a really good cause. And you know what? I actually really like the T-shirt. Have you seen it?
I've seen it.
What did you think? It's actually good, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought it looked a good design.
What do you think, Chris? Would you buy it? Will you buy it? You have to buy it.
Yes, of course I would buy it, yeah.
Most of the T-shirts look nice. The ones with QPR players on there. The one they did for Boy Zamora of his last-minute winner in the playoff final was very nice.
I'm looking forward to the Basingo one. Going towards a plane. Right, I'm joined this week by three other QPR fans, because that's what we are, a fans podcast. Always open for ideas and feedback. Right, Kev McSweeney.
Good evening.
You have done things for the BBC, am I right?
Yes.
And you've been in Prague for a while?
Yeah, for a couple of years.
How was it like following QPR in Prague? Was it difficult in them seasons, or was it handy of being in the Premier League at the time where you could have live streams?
Well, actually, this year with the Championship, because Sky have more games on TV now, you actually saw about half the home games before I left Prague. So you actually saw quite a lot of games, but when it was in the Premiership, you could go to pubs and 80% of the time you'd find the game.
Excellent. Prague's my favourite city in the world, by the way. I love it. I think it's great.
That's a great city.
Right. Also, Chris, I haven't seen you for ages, Chris. How are you keeping?
I'm well, thank you. Yeah, I could tell you a story about Prague, not for the podcast, though.
Your stories do two things to me. Terrify.
Didn't involve any
and terrify more. Yeah, I think we've heard your stories about Prague, actually, on the podcast. But anyway, welcome, Chris. Hope everything's all right.
Yes, fine, thanks.
Good. And we have Chris Mendes on as well.
Hello, Finney. How you doing?
I'm Nabad, big man. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, not too bad.
Right. One of the other things we got feedback on is too much chit-chat between ourselves and not enough to talk on QPR. Welcome your feedback on Twitter. If you can last longer than 3 minutes, please give us it. Right, that's the last time I'm saying that. Not to dig at anyone. Right, where do we go? Right, here's my dilemma of what we talk about, right? We've kind of, you said it in the pub earlier on, Kevin, we've had the longest pre-season ever because our season kind of ended in January, didn't it, really? Let's be honest. So what's the thought on pre-season so far then, after Saturday and so on?
Well, I mean, for me, I'm quite glad that finally we've reached that point where we can't go up or can't go down. The can't go up bit came this week, so we can't catch Sheffield Wednesday. And I know the last time I was on, which was a while ago, I was sort of banging on about that, and I'm quite happy, to be honest, because I think even the fans, even the most ardent fans, most optimistic fans had realised that wasn't going to happen about 3 weeks ago, but now it's finally confirmed, and I think it's just a chance, as been said before, for Hasselbank to blood some of the youngsters because they have played for various other teams, but to look ahead to next season and to maybe not play the players he doesn't want in the team so much. I noticed Hoylett was on the bench unused against Cardiff. I don't know whether that was because he's off. Would seem to suggest he might be. And yeah, I, as for the game itself, I mean, from what I can gather, I didn't go, but it's 90 minutes of the lives of the people who went that they won't get back. So well done them. But what did please me was that I know, a lot of people said we were going through the motions, but we kept a clean sheet at Cardiff. There was a goal line clearance from Clint Hill. They were putting their bodies on the line as much as they could do, and to come away with Cardiff with anything is always a pleasure. So. I'm generally quite happy.
It used to be going to Cardiff with a coaching tech was a story.
Yeah.
Kevin?
I think the positive has to be Matt Ingram, but it also leads to the conundrum of, we've had this before with Alex McCarthy, how are we going to keep two goalkeepers happy and for how long? Normally, when you have a reserve goalkeeper, you either have an old crusty who's happy to be backup goalkeeper or a good young player from your own ranks. So I think that's going to be a problem as we go forward.
No? But when was the last time we had 2 1 and 2s that were both competing and both able to come in? I mean,
Who did we have when...
Well, we're
was there, we had
Stage Cow and...
Roberts.
Yeah.
Radek, I'm not saying he was amazing, but Radek Cherney we had was there.
Yep.
Yeah, Radek Cherney.
That's
would
good.
be.
Because I'm always accused of talking too much in the past. So I'm glad you said that. I mean, I always remember like the days of Paul Barron and so on as well, and things out there. But yeah, it's a good point about the keepers. I know it's good to see that Ingham did come in and do a really good job.
Yeah, we mentioned it on a pod last week actually, and yeah, it was good to see him get a chance. I wouldn't go jump into conclusions about Hoylett because we've got a tough game against Brighton on tomorrow night on Tuesday, so it could be that he's just resting his legs in a game that we will need pace going, on the counter when we'll be under the cosh for a lot of that game, I imagine. But yeah, I don't know about Hoylett whether he'd be there next season. Obviously, his wages would have to take a major hit.
He won't be here.
Maybe he'll go and play for Toronto in Canada.
It could well do. I've got a funny feeling he might go to China or someone out there. Or the Bundesliga he still seems to be highly regarded there.
I think Chris has hit the nail on the head about the MLS because he made himself available for Canada where he'd never been he'd made himself available before, and I think that would be in mind to the MLS given that they have expanded in Canada.
Oh, okay.
Depends where his head's at. I mean, it depends whether he's looking to get us a deal on the same money. Well, of course. I mean, any job you'd want to get the same money, but realistically, it's unlikely anyone's going to pay that. Or whether he wants to, because I know a lot of the cynics will say the only reason he started playing well this second half of the season...
Keep your cynics? No, never.
It's
you haven't been on Twitter for a while.
Yeah, but it's to get a new contract. But... equally, he has been, he's been quite a bright light in the last few weeks, and it depends whether he wants to carry that on at a decent level of football. I mean, he's not that old. I mean, MLS is, I know the standard's improvement, but it's essentially a retirement home for once decent footballers. So I would hope that's not the case, but obviously that's up to him. I mean, to answer that question, I don't know exactly what he's on, but I would imagine his wages would have to be slashed in half probably for him to stay.
I think it's actually more than half. Because he came on a boss, he came on a free, he was out of contract, and we had to pay Blackburn a fee at a tribunal. So from that point of view, do they say they've got an unofficial ceiling of 20,000 now? I don't know.
I think
something like that.
I don't know. It'll be a tricky summer because at the end of last season we got rid of Joe Botton and Bobby Zamora. They were both on big wages, and they're both in the top few teams in the Championship now. They're doing quite well, but. We're going to have to just wait up because, this time at the end of last season, we were saying we need young, hungry players. But in a way, we have kind of like missed a little bit of Championship know-how. So we'll just have to find players that have the experience in the Championship, are good enough to get us up, but won't demand too much in terms of wages. And Barton's must have accepted much lower terms at Burnley. So it's just about finding the players that are good enough at that level with the experience who actually really want to play for the club.
Well, there's 2 things that are going to make a massive difference away from the pitch for QPR next season, and that is financial fair play and the budget. So them 2 things are going to be massive. We'll probably have to do our business early, I'm thinking, just in case we do get a bad ruling on financial fair play and we get an embargo. Is that still? Can we still get an embargo? Are they talking financial fine embargo? Because this is QPR. We could actually be to play in Russia or something, couldn't we? No, us.
But the good thing is because of the facts that we've known for a while, it's official now, but that we're not going up and not going down. That Hasselbank can plan for life in the Championship rather than the uncertainty of not knowing what league we're in. So I'm sure him and Les will have identified a few targets already. Wouldn't be surprised if there's 1 or 2 maybe from Burton. He's worked with before. Again, that depends what league they're going to be in next year as to whether we'd be able to get hold of them. But yeah, I just think it's. I think it's quite refreshing, that we've got someone like Hasselbank in charge, and he's sort of rather than Redknapp, for instance, he's he's looking forward.
Rather than you in charge of Redknapp.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it'll be interesting to see what he does. And I don't know. Although I've said I'm happy to be mid-table obscurity, the other side of me is it's quite weird not having anything to play for, not looking at the table, working out whether you can get enough wins to stay up or whether you can get enough to get into the playoffs.
You want more drama, Chris, as a QPR fan?
I do and I don't. I mean, this is, as I've said, I'm quite happy with the place we're in, but the last few years we haven't really been in that place. So, again, it's quite weird adjusting. And I've got to say, of course, if we score a goal, I'm jumping up and down. I'm wanting us to do well, but it's not quite the same as when you're fighting for your lives or trying to get into the playoffs. That level of excitement and anticipation, it drops a little bit.
Do you think that's why it's kind of gone a wee bit strange with the fan base, Kev? Because there is nothing to play for, so there is all these rows on Twitter because everyone's frustrated and everything else. Because for the last God knows how many years, it's going up or going down or whatever.
I think the problem you've got is what happened during the season where expectations were, first of all, they were told they were consolidation, and then the goalposts got moved and it was talked of promotion. So then from that point, we're now back with a new manager, and it feels like we're in a time zone 6 months behind where we should be. If we'd had a new manager come in at the end of last season, a totally fresh manager, then we'd have been like Hasselbank, we'd have been 6 months further on and we'd know a lot more. Whereas I would say to people at this moment in time, it's going to be another year before we actually see whether this is going forward or not. Because at the moment, we've signed players in January and they haven't had much game time. People like Connor Washington hasn't seen hardly any game time. Ben Gladwin was brought back from Swindon to be assessed. And again, rather than starting games, these guys are coming on from sometime after 65 minutes. So it's hard to say. It'd be interesting to see how many people leave and how many people come in. But probably the biggest thing we need in, say, midfield is we don't have any power or pace. And other teams do have power and pace. And that's one thing that has to be looked at.
What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I agree. I don't expect Junior Hoilett to be there, as we were just saying, and I don't expect Matty Phillips to be there either. And they're the two wide players we've used more than any other this season. Alkiati's come in, so I'm guessing he'll play a lot more next season. But I know we were saying this time last year, it's going to be wholesale changes again. And looking at it this year, it's difficult to see how, probably won't keep the same spine of the team that we've had this year. But I don't know, it's difficult. You just have to judge it after the summer when they've identified the targets. I think they must have scouts in the European League, so I would expect a couple of players to come in from Europe, like as we did last summer with Poulter and Cherry. Cherry's another player who I wouldn't be surprised to see him leave in the
Neil
summer
was
as well.
saying on the last podcast, wasn't he? He was saying he wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I mean,
That free kick on Twitter was quite good, wasn't it? You see that free kick he did some ad for some company.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, he's a decent player. I mean, he hasn't done it every single game. Don't get me wrong, but I'm sure people will be aware of him. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure if we'd have gone up, he'd have stayed. But where do you think Phillips will go then, Chris?
I think Phillips will I think he'll go to somewhere like West Brom. They're not going to go down. Pulis fancies him. Yeah. So he'll go to a team in the lower half of the Premier League, I think.
Yeah, I mean that I don't think we're going to get 5 million for him now. Was it 5 million they were going to offer? Or was it 10? Can't remember now.
It was 10 that we wanted, but I could see him going for 4 or 5 million.
I reckon he'll go for about 3.
Yeah, I think that's more like it.
QPR bought him for 6, didn't they? I mean, it would be a shame to take that much of a hit on him.
Yeah, we bought Sandro for 10 million. What is that?
He's another player. Surely he's not going to be there.
This is what worries me, right? First of all, I've got to get Washington off my chest, right? Not just because I'm partisan, because I'm Northern Irish and things like that.
Yeah.
But I don't get it. You spend a load of money on the lad, you give him a number 9 shirt, you massively hype him, and he's not going to do a lot of damage from the bench. And you could say, yes, next season, but he's got to surely get the time to gel with the players, to get something going with them now. to get himself to feel part of the squad, because I'm sure he's probably feeling a wee bit...
You just want him to get as much game time before the Euros, don't you?
My worry is, and this is, I got called ridiculously stupid, which is not the first time, last time, and it'll always be said to me, because I am, is if he has a good Euros, we may never see him in a QPR shirt next season. Because let's face it, he's only going to score a decent goal out in the Euros, and he might get a move.
I don't believe that. I mean, it's not like
Well,
Northern Ireland
crap.
are going to win it, are they? And he might score 1 or 2 goals.
I didn't say we're going to win it.
Yeah.
Jerry Armstrong got a great move to Spain
even if
after
he's-
scoring against Spain. We beat them 1-0, nearly 2.
If he scores a few goals, then I don't expect him to leave. He's not going to be the top scorer in the tournament. I think it would be great if he scores a couple of goals.
The thing was, I think Jerry Armstrong, my memory serves, he was sort of established in the top flight, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was
Back
at
then?
Tottenham and Watford.
Yeah,
Well, he's
so
at Tottenham
I
in
mean,
the top flight, wasn't
Connor
he?
Washington has sort of came from non-league. He was a postman a few years ago. Sort of mirrors the
Yeah.
Charlie Austin story. Only
Well, there you go,
without the
exactly.
goals.
Most of your players are playing in the Championship anyway. That kind of standard, aren't they?
They're all over the place. But this is a QPR
but
podcast, not
here's-
Finney's Northern Irish
Here's
Euro
the point,
Championship
though.
dream.
We have a manager that only likes playing one up front. And at the moment, he likes playing Poulter. And one of my friends explained it to me because I was away and I came back to Charlton game and goes, you will see the new tactic where the ball is played long and Poulter has to be out to receive it. And so it's played to the wings. So thus, Poulter does all the running and he doesn't seem to want to risk playing with 2 players up front. And that's one of the biggest problems. So he signed one forward for 2.5 million, 2.8 million, and he's not getting game time. And he likes the work rate of another forward. So that's why we're not seeing anything, because he only ever plays one.
Yeah, I think it's good that he's kind of letting Poulter, because Poulter's kind of grown into that role at QPR. He's still getting used to the league, leading the line up front. He's getting better and better. So I think we'll see him develop even more next season.
He needs a partner. You can't tell me you can play him as a finisher, because you can't. And I think he'll be better for it as well. I mean, what I liked about him in the last home game is how much he wanted to die for the shirt. We're always...
Yeah.
Well, he gets a fair amount of stick on Twitter and stuff, as Jimmy Mackey does, but at least they give their all. You can't.
Are you talking about Poulter's?
Yeah, he gives it. But now, I keep saying this again. I get pulled up over it. Whatever. I live in the past, but explain to me formations, because I'm old and I can't see why you can't play 2 up front in the Championship. Because surely to get out of the Championship, it's about goals. Or am I missing something?
Yeah, you can, but I mean,
I know he played the season we went up.
I'm not sure he fancies him over Hoylett and Phillips out wide at the moment, which I'm not saying I disagree with you, especially when you consider that those 2 that he have been playing probably won't be there next season. So you should be thinking about that next season, but maybe, you just got to have to trust what he's doing.
But these things can sometimes work out. For instance, like Marcus Rashford from Man United, who wouldn't have got a sniff. They have a load of injuries. He gets a sustained run in the side, and all of a sudden he's banging the goals in. I mean,
Yeah.
I read this out when Washington signed, but I just dug it out. A mate of mine's a Peterborough season ticket holder, and he said first couple of years he worked hard but looked quite average. When Wesley took over, he looked a class act. Definitely a confidence player. He's quick, loves to get one-on-one with defenders. With the right service, you've got yourself a good striker. Reminds me a lot of Craig McElsmith with his 100% attitude, not scared to roll his sleeves up and dig in for the team.
Interesting.
So that's what the Peterborough fans think of him. And I've seen that. I mean, you see he scampers around. I mean, remember his debut. Everyone was like, whoa. Came out on the left, put that brilliant cross in. And I thought from then he was going to go on and he was going to be a big find. But as you say, the manager's preferred to have the big German up front. But I think now's the time, going back to what you said, Paul, if we're going to experiment with formations and the like, then now's the time to do it.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him start on Tuesday. We have got no risk of going down. He didn't play very long on Saturday, so Hasselbank will probably start with people who didn't. I expect him to make 3 or 4 changes to the team.
I want to see Robertson come back. There's nothing wrong with him if he's obviously not injured, because I think he
Yeah,
did really well.
well, he had cramp towards the end of the game before last, so...
Well,
but it might be
I
they're
just
just
cramp
not.
in my seats. That's another story.
They're not risking. They're deciding they're going to play Robinson in home games. They ease him back, so he doesn't have to travel.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to overnight. Doesn't have to do things like that. With Washington, it is really weird that he's not starting games and coming off to get game time. And the problem is when you've got Poulter, because Hoylett and Phillips, they never seem to show that much football intelligence in terms of being predatory in boxes. Like if balls are coming in from the other wing, they don't really go sniffing into spaces to attack space where you're going to get a lot of cheap goals. And that's one of the things where if you have a secondary forward or you have someone more instinctive, you will pick up a lot more goals.
Do you know what I couldn't understand, and I saw this again, I'm going to refer to Twitter, is a young lad Cole that came on not Cardiff, the week before. People always said, oh yeah, you can't try him again, he wasn't very good. One game as a sub. I mean, are we judging players too quickly? I mean, all right, Konchesky has been a terrible signing, but surely, no matter how bad he is, he could do a job at left back ahead of Konchesky. I mean, I'm thinking of coming back.
Well, Charlie Austin, I'm sure when he first joined us, he went about five or six games without scoring, and
he did.
If memory serves. So you can't use that.
People were quite quick to judge Cherry as well. I think some people, and all of a sudden he's into double figures in league goals, and he doesn't even play up front. That's why at the end of the season, teams who go up and teams in the bottom half of the Premier League will look at that and say, "Oh, he's midfielder, scored 10 goals. He'll get me goals, guaranteed goals if I just take a chance on him."
So, okay, here's another question then. Why are people not getting a chance? Why are fans judging? Is it because we've been spoiled by money?
You could say that, or whether just people don't have a patience to it. When you're talking about Kopeka, he came into a back four that had never played for, and actually we didn't actually have. It was what I was watching was Grant Hall to see whether if his confidence over the year had grown, so that he would lead and direct a bit, but he didn't. But he didn't seem to. So I think that has an effect on players as well, because you can't. You do need some kind of. There isn't a natural leader in the team at the moment.
Unless you play
Clint Hill.
Unless you play Clint Hill. And obviously Clint Hill's talking about actually he might have to move on because he'd like to play a few more games. He doesn't want to stop playing yet.
Really?
That's what
Okay. Well, I mean, if that's the case, then if he's fit, then I would have Clint Hill for next season. If he's
Can you
got
play a
season.
37-year-old in the Championship?
Why not?
Yeah, of course you can. But that's why the summer's going to be really difficult as well, because that's what we do need. We need championship-proven players and leaders, and they're not easy to find,
And we have to sort out the balance of midfield, because Chris made a very good point about Sherry, but one of the hardest things about Sherry, he can only play literally in that hole behind, because when he played out wide, Fulham, he got put on the naughty step for not tracking back. So then we have a real problem in midfield that three of our more talented players, how do you fix the problem of Sherry, Falling and Lunga? Because they're our creative access, really. I know that Phillips and Hola do some things occasionally and provide crosses, but all the engine comes from those guys doing things. And it's a question of how do you get a formation that makes the best of what we've got? At the moment, it feels our manager is playing to his preferred formation, which is probably not the best for the players we have. So Carlo Ancelotti would always tell you, make your formation around the players you have. But unfortunately, managers come in and they only play one way. It's a bit like substitutes. You kind of feel that sometimes players nearly need the last rites before they're going to be taken off.
Well, I like the Danny Blanchflower quote, is that we equalise for the old team score. I always think that's the way to play football. Chris, what's your... Because I don't get all this false number 9, 10s and everything else, and 4, 5, this, that and the other, and 5, 4, this, and all these sort of things. What do you think is our best formation, our way forward?
Well, I think that, a lot of clubs at Swansea, to name one, that's the only one I will name at the moment, they get a manager in, and it comes from above that. The manager, Brendan Rodgers, brought in a certain style of playing, and when the manager departed, the club stuck to that ethos and brought in a manager to fit their style. So I think if Hasselbank hasn't had the chance because of what you just mentioned, he hasn't had his players. Burton, he had. Okay, he wasn't there long, but he clearly had the players he needed to play his sort of his preferred high pressing game. So I would stick with what the manager wants, and it's going to next season we'll jettison some players, we'll get some more in. I've got confidence in him that this system will work that he's playing, and I think he should persevere with what he thinks. But equally, it wouldn't hurt him to try out some other formations in this little window we've got before the end of the season.
I think there is cause for optimism as well, because it's easy.
Optimism on this podcast?
Yeah, there is.
Really? Go on.
There is a lot of uncertainty at the club at the moment, but I think you have to trust that things will improve in the summer, because they did last summer, Les' first summer as director of football. after the shambles of the season before, we got some good players in. We met the objectives that they had at the start of the season, which was not to go back down again. And if you look at the form table in the Championship, the last 10 games, QPR are actually in a playoff position. So I think things are improving.
What would you take for next season? Would you take, as a minimum, would it be getting the playoffs?
Yeah, I would. I would say that was a positive. I think if we get anywhere near the playoffs, it'll be an achievement.
But, I mean, would you...
It's going to be a tough league next year.
Because this season, as I've said, mid-term, I was been quite happy with that. Next season, I think if he gets a few players and he gets rid of a few, then I think we should definitely be targeting the playoffs. And I personally would, mid-table next season, I wouldn't be quite so happy with.
To be fair, what we got to concentrate more on anything is getting a decent training ground and going forward. Once we get that, which is, I know it's a myth.
It's progress.
Progress, yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's the thing about everything. It's progress. On one side, you'd say you'd like to see some more goals away from home because we've only scored, under Jimmy's reign, we've only scored 10 away from home in 11
and
games.
Win, you were saying as well.
1 win, 8 draws, 2 defeats. So 2 defeats is very good in 11 games. But we do need to score some more goals. But like everyone says, progress is the progress thing, and pushing for playoffs would be that. And if you look at this year, it's been very interesting that no one from the top half has put any pressure on Sheffield Wednesday or Derby for months. The top 6 have been in their own little world, just like we've been in our own capsule with Reading, Preston, and Wolves, so to speak. There's been about 4 teams round us all the time, and then you've had the others that are just meandering above the relegation knot, and then you've had the 5 teams down the bottom. It's been probably a very strange year in the Championship.
And then you've got Rotherham.
And then you've got the mighty Rotherham.
You can't
top of the form league.
You can't mention, as I found out on Twitter on Sunday, you can't mention Neil Warnock or anything he did for QPR, like doing that crazy thing he did, like winning the league, without everyone saying, well, what did he do at Leeds and Palace? It's like, who cares?
Well, of course.
He won the league with us. And
I mean, I'm not in the we should have kept, I was in the at the time, why not just for a bit of consistency, stick with Warnock till the end of the season. Okay, that didn't happen, fine, we've moved on from that. I'm not of the ilk that, we should have jettisoned
but you can still talk about it, surely.
But, he's done a brilliant job there. He does he's doing what he does best, really. He's a brilliant Championship manager. And, okay, I don't think he was given a fair crack of the whip in the Prem. And who knows? We weren't in the relegation zone at the time. We'd had a 1-0 away win at Everton, which is no mean feat. But equally, I'm not so sure. I think we need a younger bloke with fresher ideas, and I don't think Warnock is the man.
I agree,
for us.
but it is weird how he's not allowed to be talked about on Twitter without everyone going, "Oh, you can't look to the past." It was only a couple of years ago, and we did actually win the league. I'm not saying he's.
Well, some of the Twitter comments I've seen is, why the hell didn't we look at Warnock? Why we could have won
There's
the league.
obviously a reason why we didn't keep him, whatever that is.
Was that not to do with the a bun fight in some ways? He was a bun fight.
Oh, okay.
Like that he was interested in he was always talking about a director of football role.
Maybe.
And that role was already filled. So then, in that circumstance, there was never going to be.
He's also a massive personality.
Oh,
he?
big! He
is a massive personality. I mean. But what he's done at Rotherham, regardless, I'm not saying this because I'm backing Jimmy all the way, just in case anyone from Twitter hammered me is listening. But they were dead and buried when we played them. They looked finished. They were gone. Yeah. And he's come in there, done a great job. If I was Aston Villa, I'd employ him tomorrow. Yeah, that's my personal opinion. Don't care about Villa that much. Although I am enjoying seeing them back next season after the grief they gave us last year.
Well, I'd give him Championship Manager of the Year. He's done an amazing job. Really
Championship Manager of the Year should obviously go to Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank because I get accused of not backing the manager. So I would give it to him.
Well, he did. Warnock did really well even in his short period with us as well this season. The problem with
steadied his ship.
The problem with having him as your manager is that he'll give you a great chance of promotion from the Championship, but once you're in the Premier League, his record there isn't very good at all.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, I'm thinking this from my.
And he's not a long-term.
No, of course not. But then option. Again, the money that's going to be in the Premiership next season is massive. And if there was one season,
money doesn't matter to us. We only waste it.
Oh, I know. But let's pretend we've got a sensible head on and we're going to actually use it wisely. I mean,
Yeah, but we don't. I don't
He
think
would've
as
got you
a
there.
club, and I
Maybe.
don't think the
It's
fans,
not the future.
I don't think the fans want to go up just to come down again. Next time they go up, they want the structure there to be in place that they stay there for at least 10 years.
Which is why someone like Jimmy, hopefully, God willing, is the man to put that structure in place and implement the playing style, which will hopefully be followed by his successors.
Amen to that, and a training ground
But
of our own would be great.
Yeah, just going back to what you said about Villa, I'd just be interested to see who of the relegated clubs, of the clubs battling against relegation, we want to come down. Because I was thinking, initially I was thinking, we want to avoid the big boys because last time Newcastle came down, they went straight back up again. But then again, it's not a happy ship there particularly.
They haven't got
think
the
Aston
personalities, have they?
And then Sunderland
Villa
Sam Allardyce apparently might not stay if Sunderland get relegated. But if Allardyce stays at Sunderland, that's another one you don't really want down there.
I want to see Newcastle go down and get Paul Hart as manager.
I'd rather Sunderland went down than Norwich, because Sunderland, if Norwich go down, I can see them. I can see them being right up there.
Well, I think the thing with Norwich is
I hate Norwich. Huh? I don't like Norwich.
Yeah.
That's the team we've played
Well,
most
1976.
Yeah, but
I know.
I just don't like them.
Yeah, but Alex Neil will stay there. They'll keep most of the same players, and they'd be straight back
The
up.
trouble
there
is,
next season.
you know that Newcastle and Sunderland, regardless, is going to be a Tuesday night in the middle of winter.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just know that. It couldn't be a Saturday where we could go up and enjoy ourselves. It's going to be a Tuesday night. But I would like to see Villa, obviously they're gone, joined by Newcastle and Sunderland, to be perfectly honest with you. Although I do not like Norwich, but it's more fun with them other two.
I'm sort of the same ilk from after what Chris said. I think it's like the Burnley situation. Well, they've got. I think their manager's a decent manager, and he'll learn from that. He's his first time in the Premier League. He's only 34, I think. Norwich manager.
Do you know what I'm really gutted about? The Palace didn't go down. I can't stand their fans, and that ultra thing just does my nutting. So I'd love to see them relegate, because I don't like Pardew either. Carry on.
Yeah, but this is more about who we don't want to play, really. And I think Norwich, as you said, Chris, I mean, I think they could keep the nucleus of their squad, add a couple. They've been in the Championship before, most of the players. They know what it's about. Whereas Sunderland haven't been there for, I don't know, a fair while. Newcastle the same. Villa for absolute yonks. And I think there's a Villa fan I know who was like saying, if we buy a few Championship players, we'll be right. I'm thinking, mate, you've got no idea.
But Aston Villa, even 2 members of the board resigned today.
Yeah.
So, if you look at it, the whole place is in turmoil. And
Totally.
like Chris says about their fans, they haven't been in the second division since 1987. They haven't got a clue what the Championship's like. So they're living on dreamland.
And to be fair, let's face it, in 1987, we were quite decent in them days as well.
Yeah.
It's rare that you see a team being as bad as Aston Villa are this season,
And we give it a go.
and then give it, being right back up there next season.
I think the best quote of the week has got to be Julian Lescott. You'll never beat that in a million years. I mean, whoever's advising him clearly hates him.
What was he said?
Joe-
Taking the pressure off.
It's a weight off their shoulders now. They've been relegated. They can now focus on the task ahead.
He must have Jose Bosinga as his media advisor.
It's unbelievable. And then he was getting crap off Villa fans earlier on the season, quite rightly, for being ridiculously bad. And he was tweeting photographs of his posh cars, and then said, "Oh, I hacked it," and he went off, and it was in my pocket. But that's modern football, right? We're coming to the end, so I'm going to do this quickly, and then we'll go to the hour's end. So we've got 2 games coming up. Let's talk about them very, very, very quickly. Tomorrow night, what do you reckon?
I'm a bit gutted about tomorrow night because I've booked the day off to go and blah. And anyway, it's a long story, but circumstances mean that I can't now go.
I hear that. Same with me, fella.
Yeah, but Brighton, I mean, they spanked Fulham, which is always a good thing. 5-0, didn't they? I like Brighton. I'd quite like to see them go up. Equally, of course, I don't want us to give them a helping hand. But Jimmy's, away from home, as you said, I mean, we don't win money, but we're starting to look, as if we're not shipping that many at the moment as well. So, I mean, I'm going to go for another 0-0.
On Saturday, quickly.
Reading, fake hoops. I think we'll win that 2-0.
Tomorrow,
Chris.
as Chris said, we're resolute away from home, but this will be a real test of our resoluteness away from home. If we get a result at Brighton, we've done well. Saturday, I actually think there'll be quite a lot of goals. Reading concede goals, score goals, so I think there could be quite a lot of goals. I'll go for 4-2.
Whoa.
Yeah, I like Brighton as well. I wouldn't mind to see them going up. At the same time, I wouldn't mind them to stay down and play them again, next year. Maybe they'd change it to a Saturday so we can all go down and enjoy the sunny day in Brighton while we play them. But I think it's an interesting game, and it will be a real test of whoever Jimmy chooses to play there, because they're the form team of the Championship at the moment. Last 10 games, they're top of the league. Everyone kind of thought they'd slip back into the top six, maybe even slip out of the top six, but they've had staying power, which has surprised people. So I think, like the guys were saying, we've been a lot more solid away from home. So optimist in me would say we'll pick up a point there, and then I expect us to beat Reading on Saturday. So 4 points from 2 games.
Well, I was due to go tomorrow night, but for reasons being under my control, I'm not going, which is a shame. Reason why I didn't go Saturday as well. But I did some work for the Vice Brighton chairman once, and I really want to stuff them. Lovely man, loved it all. Great job. Just please stuff them, QPR. Just please. I don't. Also, it'd be nice to get a nice away win at Brighton. You know, just bring them down the earth, then they can concentrate in the playoffs or going up, whatever. Just be nice to go there and just have a little bit of a wee in their parade, as they say.
Why do you mean you did some work for him?
He employed us.
Oh, Flowers.
Yes.
Oh, right.
What do you think it was?
I don't know.
Bungee jumping?
Was he a bit of a prick?
Anyway, of course not. I planned confidentiality. Yes. Saturday, I think we'll win both games. I think win tomorrow night 1-0, and I think Saturday we'll win about 4-0. Never let it be said that after a 3-minute listen, this podcast is not positive.
He says that as he puts down his cider.
I tell you that the nurse said these pills would never work, and she was wrong. Right, it's the hour's end of the show, so we should really start with our guest of this week, of Kevin.
Right, positive one. Just want to wish good luck to all the QPR fans who are running in the London Marathon. Some are running for the Community Trust, others are running for other charities. Hope they have a good run, enjoy it, and don't zigzag, because you're just going to do extra resistance.
Just think the same thing
Good
myself.
tip there, runners.
Yeah. Wear some shoes as well.
Yeah.
Preferably nice scuddies. Carry on.
Oh, you're looking at me? Okay.
I'm cross-eyed. I was trying to.
Okay. Squint eastward.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for that. That tortured me for 10 years of my life. Carry on.
It was you who told us.
I know. It still tortured me.
Yeah, I haven't really got an answer. I'll tell you what I'd quite like to do is get a few more songs for the players. Because I think, I know it sounds a bit daft, but when we had, like, for instance, the Bazaki song, I know we've got Mackie, but he hasn't been playing that much. But a good, decent, rousing song for a player, rather than just your sort of standard, just blah, blah, player's name, and that's it. And I did come up with one earlier in the season. You got to fight for your right key, Artie. And that never took off. Never took off. Maybe it will do next season. But I think, we've said it all along, and I think it's the same. Anyway, I was talking to a Charlton fan. There's lots of different people at our work, Arsenal fan, all the rest of it, and atmosphere is in most grounds in the country is pretty dead unless you've got the Palace Ultras giving it large. And I think maybe that's part of the reason. It's partly the sort of influx, the influx of more sort of well-to-do people coming in who haven't got a football background.
It's the age profile.
Class war.
In
reverse.
The average age has gone up so much at football. So then songs would come from the younger element of the crowd. Yeah. And because they've been priced out now, the average age, especially in the Premiership, has gone way up.
But that's going to change next season with these reduced prices, which is what the Championship is going to have a massive headache about, because it's now going to compete with Premiership clubs getting more exposure and being cheaper in some respects, which is going to be difficult.
But we haven't got an awful lot of competition, have we? Because we've got Fulham.
We haven't got an awful lot of competition in London.
No, I mean in West London or West-ish London.
Mate, if you've got an Oyster card, you can go anywhere.
Yeah,
Hanwell Town.
You've only got. This is what I'm glad you said that, because it really annoys me. I know the pitches are going to six-a-side now, the old plastic pitch by Rangers.
Yeah,
but it used to be you go down there on a Saturday, and it used to really depress me. You'd have Liverpool shirts, Man U shirts, Chelsea shirts. Very rarely you see a QPR shirt in your own area.
But you've got to remember that these. I mean, I live near, in between Arsenal and Tottenham, and my daughter goes to school there, and funnily enough, and all of her mates are Arsenal, Tottenham fans, and they take the mickey out of her being for a QPR fan. I say to him, how many times they've been? None. And she's been going since she was 6, so at least she's supporting a team.
My mate Stephen Cross in Dungannon, his nephew Philip Cross is a massive QPR fan, and he used to go to, when we were in the second division, he used to, they all the season tickets. So he'd come over to nearly every game. And they go back to school and they take the absolute piss out of him if they're Man U fans or whatever. And he would just say, I seen a game Saturday, you sat in your chair and watched it on telly.
Exactly.
And that's the attitude. And he is QPR for life. And if you're listening, Philip, you're an inspiration to many people from Dungannon who aren't QPR fans. Chris. Sorry, Chris.
No, so I was just going to say. So that was my R's end in a roundabout way. Come up with some decent songs. So maybe you could even submit them to the podcast, and we'll read them out.
Do you know what I miss? We're blue, we're white, and then something dynamite. I loved that song. It was very uncomplicated and very easy to sing.
Is the big German? Well, I suppose we've got one for him. But we need somebody who's 6'2", eyes are blue, don't we? Really, that was my favourite song.
Oh, but the big German song always reminds me of Christopher Comrie. They're not songs of praise.
But but it doesn't matter. It's when someone starts singing that, everyone joins in because people know that one. The Buzaki was brilliant when they used to resonate around the ground. I just think we could do with a few more of those. When you got a few of them in your locker, people might be more inclined to join in. That's it. Over to Chris.
I don't really have an arse end, but as everyone knows surely by now, is that we've got a live podcast coming up on May the 5th. So maybe everyone could kind of come up with suggestions for chants and sing them at the live pod. Which would be nice.
Maybe do that at the end of the evening when everyone's had
okay. That could be interesting. And where is this live pod? Do tell, Christopher.
Oh, it's in Kilburn, isn't it?
It is in Kilburn, and it starts at about 7:00. And we've got a couple of guests. And who are the guests?
We've got Lee Hughes, we've got Lee Cook, and it's good to kind of balance out Lee Hughes, who's come into the club recently, and Lee Cook, who was there not too long ago, but also during a completely different time when he had a signing on fee for leaving, and the club were in such perilous situation financially that he actually gave it back to us. So it's a true club legend.
Very true. My odds end of the show, because I have to ask myself, which is a bit weird, is that I would like to see as many people at the podcast as possible that follow on from Chris, because without your support the podcast doesn't exist, and we do appreciate it, and we do welcome your feedback and everything else, and it's only by you telling us where we are going right and wrong that we can make it better or worse depending on what the ideas are. And please come support us and help us keep going, because we try and get as many fans on as possible, try and get as many ex-players on as possible, and it's a good crack, this podcast, to be fair, and we all enjoy it, and it's independent, and thank God for that, and always will be. My real end of this show is, can we just have a little bit more unity and love? And that's coming from me, and I started half the rows, but I would like on Twitter and in the grounds, everything else, a bit more less arguing, a bit more unity, a bit more love, and remember, we're all Queen's Park Rangers fans. We're all entitled to an opinion, and we all want the best for our club.
Well said.
And one last thing. I went to this is terrible to admit this, but I did. I went to, remember the audience, this fantasy football thing in Sky. They had Michael O'Neill and our manager on. And I had a VT of your man, the comedian, who's a Chelsea fan. Can't remember his name.
David Baddiel?
No, the
other one.
The guy who did the film. Anyway, and he was going through his Chelsea. He'd Fillery in his best Chelsea 11, and then had the cheek to say, "Don't know where he went." I mean, really. I mean, seriously, behave yourselves. And yeah, that just sums up Chelsea fans. That was horrible, because I was in the audience booing every single player, and everyone, I think,
on your own.
Yeah, and when they got to Clive Walker, I just shouted "Flasher," and I was surprised I wasn't thrown out at that point. But yeah, it was a strange 11, and it was probably the most torturous thing I've ever had to do, is sit through that. It was hell.
Do you know the funniest thing about Mike Fillery?
Go on.
His mum was on the committee of the supporters club at Chelsea. So when her son signed for QPR, she was absolutely disgusted.
And by the way, I could tell you this, because I know from going to Chelsea and Westminster Hospital a lot recently that Chelsea fans on game days or any other time, when they're walking around and you weren't anything to do with QPR, they hate us. Forget what they say on Twitter. They don't like us, and you will get abused, like I have been. Listen, thank you for listening to Open All Hours. I hope you've lasted longer than 3 minutes. That was the intention. Please do listen again. Please do come to the live podcast, and please give us your feedback. This has been a W12 production, and Chris, thank you.
Thank you, Finney. Thank everyone. Yes.
No, I haven't thanked anyone this week. I feel like I should thank Chris. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me, Paul.
Easy. Kevin, you've been a brilliant guest. Please come on again, and we can even talk about the Three Musketeers with a QPR fan in it that you were working on.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Good man. Come on, you Oz.
QPR, Queen's Park Rangers.
The world's most popular QPR podcast, that's us, will be holding its traditional end-of-season party in front of a live audience on May the 5th at the Good Ship, Kilburn. The first two names confirmed are fans' favourite Lee Cook and QPR CEO Lee Hoos, meaning we can amuse ourselves by calling the evening Cook Who's Talking. Please join us. Tickets are a tenner and can be purchased via qprpod.co.uk.